But just think about any sort of behavioral issue that would actually fit into this graphic and this way that I want you to think about things. So instead of saying, well, how do we treat this symptom, we're going to look at it, we're going to take a step back and say, well, why does that happen? What are the triggers that cause it to happen? So I'll have a few stories to share as I go through this, and I think you'll find it very helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, Mr. Brooks, if you can tell me when you're able to see that on your end.
Got it.
Got it. Awesome. So this should be a little bit fun to go through. This is my tantrum tamer plan, behavior support plan, and we're going to go through each of these little circles individually. And so what I first want you to do is look at part 1, reduce incoming inflammatory environmental triggers. And then part 2 is reduce nervous system inflammation with quality supplements. So a lot of times parents come to me and they've given their kids a lot of supplements and haven't seen a huge difference. In fact, I had a parent last week who saw I think it was a medical doctor, a professional who recommended some great stuff, and they really weren't seeing any benefit. And I think the reason is because they were trying part 2 without trying part 1 first. So what we're going to do is go through part 1, because supplements are awesome, they're great, but they are supplemental to all the other basic stuff that we're going to do. So let's talk about some things that might feed this fire. If you look at the little kid, he's got a fire in his head, right? So we're going to talk about some things that feed that fire. So the first thing, I don't know, Mr. Brooks, if your daughter's doing this gluten-free, casein-free diet, but it's so common with the kids that I work with. In fact, I think I've had one kid out of all of them that I've worked with who wasn't sensitive to gluten, and none that weren't sensitive to dairy, or maybe it was the other way around. But either way, it's so common. I just keep the kids off the product.
I can definitely attest to the gluten-free, casein-free. I mean, when we removed milk, it was a night or day difference, and sleep normalized almost immediately once we removed milk. And it was grass-fed milk, so it was as good as you could get organic, but it still didn't matter, you know.
Right. It's right. There's something in it that her body just couldn't tolerate. So I remember one of the early kids I saw 4 or 5 years ago. He came into my office, maybe 5 or 6 years old, and he's playing with the toys and the cars and everything, real calm. And then about halfway into the visit, he's just climbing the wall. And so I said to Mom, I said, what was the last thing he had to eat? And she says, he had a cheese stick in your waiting room. So I'm like, I don't need to do a blood test. That's the test, right? And so usually what I'll do is I'll remove gluten and dairy if the parents don't know they're an issue already. And then we'll test it. So the people that I work with, they say, oh, I've been glutened, right? Or my kid got gluten the other day. And then the next day or two, you may see the behaviors different or the stools are different. Like, if your daughter gets something with milk, she's not going to be the same. So the testing for gluten is not very accurate in terms of a blood test. So if you went to a medical doctor and you got a blood test and it was negative, it's only 50-some% accurate. So it's not really a good test. The best test, even a food allergy test, while they're very good and I use them myself, I like avoidance and reintroduction. So what that means is you avoid everything with gluten in it. And in my course that I'll share with you, we go through that step by step. So if you haven't already avoided gluten, it's okay. I will show you how to do that. And then so you do that for 10 days. On day 11, you feed your child 3 servings of gluten, bread, crackers, pasta, whatever it is. And then there's no more gluten for 3 more days. So it's day 11, 12, 14. Why? Because if you eat something, it doesn't mean it's going to show up right away, because there's a couple of different types of allergens. So there's the anaphylactic type, which probably will show up right away. But then there are other types which are delayed sensitivities. And so what we do is we wait those 3 days. If there's any constipation, of course, you're not going to be constipated in 5 minutes after eating gluten, because that it takes a little while for that to happen. So things move through the system. So we might see something like that a couple days later. Maybe there's gas or bloating. I know adults who can describe these things. They have headaches and they just don't feel right. They feel tired or sluggish, or their autoimmune issues might come back. So then you wait those 3 more days. Is there a rash? Is there anything different? Maybe sleep's not as good. And you can do the same thing with dairy. And in my online class, we go through hidden sources of dairy, hidden sources of gluten, because obviously it's not just milk and bread. They're in so many things, as I know you've found out.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's there. It's in everything. You know, even you try to get a gluten-free snack, and then it's got a dairy seasoning on top. You know, and so it's hard to get away from. It's really hard.
Yes, it is. I think there's more and more things now that are gluten-free, and hopefully there will be more in the future. So, and same thing.
One thing is corn, right? Corn is a big substitute for gluten, and it's covered with pesticides just the same. So I know that's an obstacle that we try to go around quite a bit, especially if you try to do like a gluten-free pizza. You know, a lot of times those crusts are corn-based. So, you know.
Right. Or there's potato flour, which, you know, it doesn't really have any nutrition. Tapioca starch is just starch, even if it's gluten-free. And then corn is, at least in the US, on the genetically modified list. So that's a problem because we don't really know the long-term consequences of GMO products. And so we want to avoid that. Corn's also one of the top allergens. In fact, I had a guy, I saw his wife, and we were just talking about diet, and she says, my husband refuses to eat dinner if there's no corn on the plate. And I'm thinking, yeah, he has a corn allergy. He has a corn addiction, which can be a sign of allergy. So we want to reduce food allergens, decrease sugar. So what I say for sugar is we don't want sugar in the first 6 ingredients of anything that's eaten on a regular basis.
Okay.
And the reason is this kid in the picture reminds me of Homer Simpson with like the steam coming out of his ears. His brain's literally on fire. And what we have to do is quench that fire. And if we eat something that produces inflammation, like a food allergen, it's going to create fire. It's going to create inflammation. Think about if you had a migraine headache 24/7. That's what these kids are going through. Everything is just an irritant for them. Loud noises, bright lights, physical trauma, changes, everything that you and I might be like, oh yeah, well that stinks, but let me see if I can move past it in 5 minutes. They can't because they have this fire going on. And sugar feeds that fire, it's like a drug. And so even if it's gluten-free, we don't want to be eating gluten-free cookies and candies and snacks that have sugar in it. You will see problems. So I have a family I'm working with. Hopefully they're on this call today. And one of the things is that this boy is violent. He's 12 or 13. He's getting big, right? And mom's showing me bruises on her cheeks. And so I said, did he have any sugar yesterday? And they say, well, he had some mango. Well, did it have sugar on it? Let me check. Yeah, it did. That's why. And when you remove that, you'll see in 24, 48 hours, he shouldn't be violent for no reason. So this is violence that he hit mom. She didn't even wake up yet. She's in bed and he hit her. So like nothing happened, right?
Right.
A lot of kids I hear, well, if you tell them no, or they can't have their tablet, or they can't have their favorite snack or something, then they get violent. But there wasn't anything going on because it was first thing in the morning. And so I know it was something from the day before.
Right.
So sugar, huge, huge issue. I know that's a big change for a lot of people. Maybe it's a smaller change for others. Has to be out of the first 6 ingredients: cookies, crackers, cereal's a big one. These gluten-free granola bar thingies. Granola has a ton of sugar. Yogurt. So if you're getting a dairy-free yogurt, coconut yogurt, they can have a lot of sugar. Now, when you read the nutrition label, if it says sugars, it doesn't mean it's added. Like an apple has 11 grams of sugar naturally. So that's, that's cool. I don't see that. I really don't see that being a problem in terms of a natural fruit sugar. But what I see being a problem is an added sugar. So if your kid drinks juice, I don't think it's a problem. I would suggest you mix it half and half with water, just because juice is really not a natural thing. If we want juice, we just, or in my iced tea, I'm squeezing my orange, the little orange juice. So sugar is hugely inflammatory. In fact, when I was a student, I had a girl in my class woman in my class, who said that every time she ate cake, her knees hurt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so for these kids, it's their brain.
That's right.
Right. And so she can consciously make that choice. Well, I might have a little knee pain, or maybe I won't. But your children need you to make that choice for them. And so
inflammation and tantrums, I think those get overlooked. We focus on the big therapies, we focus on detoxification, and we focus on the immune system. And I do think inflammation should be addressed the entire time, and especially beforehand, because it's almost like the foundation. It sets the table up for everything else. You know?
It absolutely does. And I have another graphic maybe I'll share on a different webinar here, but it's a circle, and there's inflammation here and gut, GI health here, and just how it's a cycle. And so when you talk about immune system, the immune system is going to get inflamed if there's more sugar. So when I look at autoimmune disease, and I think autism is going to be found to have a lot of autoimmune things. We have the methylfolate receptor, that could be an autoimmune issue, not in every kid, right? But then there's pandas. All these are immune issues. And so when we have an out of balance immune system, we're going to have more symptoms. So my friend with the knees that hurt, she may have had regular arthritis, non-autoimmune arthritis. She may also have been starting with rheumatoid arthritis and not known it at the time. But that's what I see when people eat something that they shouldn't have. They might feel achy and sore in their joints, and that's inflammation, which can be from autoimmune disease.
No doubt. I get a hangover if I eat bad, like the next morning, almost like I've drank. I get a hangover, and my joints are achy. I mean, that's part of it.
So something that you're eating would be inflammatory or allergenic, which are kind of the same thing for you. So maybe you can try to isolate what that is and don't feel so bad about consuming all the other things that you might like. So it's that achiness, it's that run down feeling can come with immune disease. So decrease sugar in the first 6 ingredients. You do not want it there. Even if your kid really likes something, I just need, the parents that I work with, I need you to be the parent now. You'll be friends with them later, for sure. So that's number 2 in decrease sugar. Number 3, decrease white flour. And yes, this includes white rice. I have a lot of Indian patients that I see for whatever reason. They're coming in to see me, which is awesome. And they make a lot of their food at home, which is great. But one of the ones that they do have is white rice. And if they're, my non-Indian patients, they got white bread going on and white pasta. And what happens is the white flour spikes your blood sugar. And when it's spiking, that's when we're having the inflammation, just like if you were eating table sugar. After it spikes, guess what? 2 or 3 hours later, it's in the tubes again. And now your kid's cranky and irritable. And what does your kid want? Something with that quick sugar. So I was out with a girlfriend last year. We went to an Asian restaurant, and I remember she got white rice and some sort of vegetable or chicken or something, I don't know. And we hung out, we went to a show, and then on our way home, she had to stop at the convenience store and get a soda. And I knew the reason was because the white rice spiked her blood sugar, and 3 hours later, she was hurting. She needed that to raise her up again. And so the more fat we eat, moderated with protein, some good whole carbs, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, that's when we're going to see a more stable alignment of our sugar. So even if your kid is not diabetic or pre-diabetic, you still have to get rid of that. If I've had kids whose parents refuse to get rid of the white products, and I really didn't see them improve.
Gotcha. It's important.
It's really important. So what can you use instead? Quinoa, which is a whole grain, brown rice, black rice, which is super tasty, wild rice, which is actually different species of rice. So every kind of rice has a different nutrient, actually. So we're getting different things. Each color of rice has a different nutrient. The quinoa comes in brown and the yellow color. You can use the cauliflower rice. There's rice edamame. You want to get organic because soy's on the GMO list. You can get rice broccoli, or you can serve something that you would normally serve over rice, just over a salad or over greens, or by itself. So I've been eating Indian food just plain without the rice, or maybe making some rice cauliflower to go with it. But it is so, so important. White rice increases your risk of diabetes 7 times over brown rice. And I see it, a lot of people that I work with, many of them have restricted diets. And even if they're not, sometimes they're obese, sometimes they're real skinny and they're not growing. And they're not growing because they're eating white rice. In fact, I had a family not autistic, come to see me. One of the concerns for her, actually the only concern for her older child, was that he wasn't growing. In a number of months, he hadn't put on any height, and I've been seeing him for 6 months, and he still hasn't put on any height. Come to find out, he's eating white bread every morning. So, what's that?
I was just going to mention there's no nutrition in the rice, right? There's very, very, very little actual content.
Yeah, so what actually happens with white rice is, let's see if I can draw a picture conveniently. It's on the back of my diabetic diet plan. So let's draw a rice. You can unshare that screen for a sec there, please.
Yes, ma'am.
So the outer portion, this could be white rice. I'm sorry, this could be rice, wheat, or any other grain. We have the outer portion, which is called the germ. So this is where you get wheat germ. And then we have the inner portion, which is really just a protein and starch. So this inner portion is going to be the food for the growing plant, the energy for it, whereas the outside portion is going to be the nutrients. So in the outside portion, we have fiber, B vitamins, vitamin E, and other important nutrients. Now, when we remove this layer, we're just left with the sugar portion, the starch.
Okay.
Now, the thing is, whenever we eat a starch, whether it's a banana or a cookie or rice, we actually need B vitamins to process it. And so what happens if the B vitamins are removed is the rice takes it from you.
Wow.
Yes.
Did not know that.
Every time you eat white flour, you're actually less healthy.
What? So that stuff is taking our B vitamins to just be able to process it.
That's right.
Okay. Did not know that.
And B vitamins help with sleep, energy, mood. So these are things that these kids really need.
Side note, I learned that nitrous oxide reduces B12 in the brain substantially. So for anybody going to the dentist, keep that in mind. That was one thing that I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said it just depletes the B12 in your brain, like substantially. We did get a question. I don't know if you want to address it right now. Arsenic in rice was a question we just got.
Yeah, arsenic's naturally occurring in rice. I know that came out a few years ago, and I can't say how much or what brands of rice are better, but that is an issue. I don't know that organic is any better because, like I said, it's naturally occurring. Okay. I wish I had some more precise information on it, but I think one of the points of that comment is really how can we have a more diverse diet in the first place?
Right.
So if you have rice a couple times a week, you're not really getting much of any certain contaminant. But if you have quinoa and amaranth and salads and other things, then you're really decreasing your risk there. So, okay, so that is white flour, and this is the nutrients. Please don't eat white flour. It's toxic. Just don't.
Yep, and white flour and white rice will remove your B vitamins.
Yes. Yes.
Which is probably new information for a lot of us. So.
Great. So let's put that shot back up and go to the third circle. The fourth circle. There we go. Decreased food coloring. Yeah. Most of the parents I work with really don't have a lot of things with food coloring, but if you do, just go ahead and read that. You've probably heard of the Feingold diet, which removes a lot of the dyes and a number of other things, and that's been very successful in studies. So looking at the dyes that you're having, if you have organic things, they generally don't have dyes anyway, so you're safe in that case. Great. Decrease omega-6s. So we have two types of fats that we eat, and they're both necessary. We have omega-3s and we have omega-6s. Now, native people ate so much more omega-3s. Which one was my omega-3 hand? I think it was this one. Okay, so let's just say omega-3s. They ate something like 16 times as many omega-3s as omega-6s. Omega-3s are going to be olive oil, fish oil, flax products, and certain nuts and seeds like walnuts. Omega-6s is going to be corn, vegetables, soy, safflower, cottonseed, and other oils, even sunflower. So they're not bad. We need them both. But most Americans are like this. In fact, they're like this. My hand's on the floor. And so we have an imbalance. And this imbalance creates a huge issue. So every time you eat out, you're getting the omega-6s. Canola oil is the cheapest, junkiest vegetable oil. It's like I said, it's not terrible. It's just, it's overabundant in our body. Now, our brain is 60% fat. So if you're 59 of that 60% is junk, is the wrong kind of oil, you're not going to be able to think, concentrate, and process.
Yeah, you're building cells with the wrong materials, right?
Okay. That's absolutely right. And children, because their brains are growing, they actually need a higher concentration of the DHA, which is, I'm sure you're aware, is a component of the fish oil products. So that is not in vegetarian products. So even my vegetarians, they have to take fish oil. It's not there. I was a vegetarian. I get it. But think of it like a medicine. You have to have it from the fish. The krill oil, if you ask Dr. Nemechek, I'm sure you've heard of him, he has not found that the krill oil is as clinically beneficial as the DHA. And the reason is the fish eat the krill. They're like tiny microorganisms. And the fish turn it into a DHA that is a little bit different. And so I'd rather give the body closer to what it needs. We will make our own DHA out of flax oil and other oils, but it's only about 5% of what we take in. So whose brains are growing, that's why it's called an essential fatty acid, because we really just don't make much of it. You know. So the ones that you want to avoid, and I wrote decrease, but I would just avoid it because, if you're already down, which arm is it? I forget. If you're already down here, not with so much omega-6 in your body, you don't want to add a drop more. So that's going to be soy, corn, sunflower, safflower, cottonseed, rapeseed, peanuts, margarine, which is just junk, and shortening, which is horrible, and hydrogenated as well.
Yeah, I was very displeased to learn that my entire childhood we were eating margarine. My mom used to purchase Country Crock.
Right.
And, it wasn't until I started this health journey, I was like, well, that's not butter at all.
Right.
It's just vegetable oil spread. And it tells you that on the container. But I think for many years, people didn't really understand the difference. But, margarine is just, it's crap, is it not?
It absolutely is. In fact, I also work with people with dementia, so kind of the other end of the spectrum, because there's a memory care facility. I'm looking at it right now. It's on my window. So sometimes I do talks for them and just talking about brain health and the oils that they need. So actually I got their kitchen to get off of vegetable oil, and now they're using coconut oil. So I'm so happy about that.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. So when you read about some of the things in dementia, the canola oil and these junky oils actually cause your brain cells to die. And when they die, they open up. And when they open up, they release the contents, which are toxic. And then those contents tell the neighboring cells, hey, there's a problem here. You should kill yourself now. And it's called apoptosis when these cells die. And that, when you look at the dementia population, I think their brains are also starving because you look at the brains and they're shrinking. They're like raisins. And when we talk about the brain being 60% fat, it's got to be a good fat. It has to be a good fat. So I'll tell you a story. I had a girl, maybe she's on the call today with mom, who's been home for the coronavirus since March. And normally I get a diet diary from the parents, but for whatever reason, mom didn't send one this week, so I didn't know exactly what she was eating. And she's flapping her arms and rocking back and forth, as many of my kids do, for a long time, and a lot more than she was before March. So we'd added in some supplements, and mom's like, oh, maybe it's a supplement. I'm thinking, yeah, I don't think so, but I can't figure out anything else that's different. And then at the end of the call, she says, well, she's been eating chips more. And I said, well, okay, well, what brand? And so she was eating Lay's chips. And it turns out, I thought Lay's was going to have some junky oil, but they have sunflower oil, which is not junky, but it is omega-6. And we took out the chips and we added a couple products that I'll share with you in a minute. And that was the end of it. It was a lot better. And so oils are so important. I have another mom, a great family I'm working with, and parents are divorced, and dad took the kid to McDonald's, and mom calls me the next day in crisis. I know, right? And the kid, he only slept 2 hours, and I see a video, we're on video, and I see him, he's kicking the walls. He's got one of those chew toys in his mouth, like the ones that look like Legos, and then he's got a bottle in the other hand, and he's kicking fortunately she had a brick wall, but he's kicking the wall, and then I see him pounding on the glass. He's literally climbing the windows. And so what I have
Brain on fire.
What's that?
Brain on fire.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. His brain's on fire. So I thought, well, how do I get this brain out of fire really fast? So I had Mom give a teaspoon of olive oil every hour, in addition to a homeopathic medicine that was chosen specifically for him. And then I think we did a Guna product from this company Guna that I'll share with you. And so that really got him out of it. Now, what that did was lower the level from here to here.
Right.
Right. So he still can't talk. He's still autistic. His brain can't function normally. He doesn't want to sit through his lessons. He's not making good eye contact, etc. But you'll see the reason that the kids can't develop normally is because their brain's on fire. And when their brain's on fire, you can't make those connections between the nerves. So the nerves have to talk to each other. And if this nerve can't tell this nerve, hey, did you hear that? Oh, right, I heard that. Okay, let me turn my head and see what's going on. You're not going to make those connections because it's just fire.
Right.
And so I think that autoimmune inflammatory processes are really the cause of what's going on with these children and now young adults. Autism's been around for a while, but these children and young adults. And so this food with the omega-6 is super, super important. So I like to get kids off all omega-6s, Nemetschek protocol or not, because they are pro-inflammatory.
Of course.
And so some people tell me that they did the Nemetschek protocol and they say, well, we added olive oil and fish oil, but that's not it. You have to get rid of these omega-6 oils. You have to get rid of them. And it's hard for a lot of people who are using, tater tots and fruit or like chicken nuggety things. So you really need to make those at home because a lot of the gluten-free products, they still have safflower oil. It's not, these aren't terrible things, but they're terrible for these kids because they're so overbalanced.
Right. Or the canola. I've seen where for whatever reason, everyone that thinks canola is a little bit healthier than vegetable oil, and turns out they're the same exact thing, right? Canola is vegetable oil imported from Canada.
Right. It is called rapeseed oil. That's
which is where it gets oil.
It's Canada.
It's kind of unfortunate. Now, I have seen where they have expeller expressed canola oil. Is that a healthy option with the processing, or is it still just the same?
I think if you're going to use a canola oil, which I wouldn't suggest buying, but expeller pressed, I think means it's not extracted with heat and chemicals like a lot of the other ones are. That's my understanding, but it's still the omega. I believe it's an omega-6, and Dr. Nemetschek does allow small amounts of it. So if you have a crack or something that has a little bit in it, I wouldn't go crazy about it. But it's these other ones that I listed that you really want to just not have in your diet at all.
Got you. We did get a question about basmati rice.
Okay, so basmati rice, that's a great question. And I'll address Jasmine with that as well. Basmati rice is generally white rice. Now,
it's generally what?
It's generally white rice.
Okay.
So if you want basmati, there is a company, I think it's Lundberg Farms, has a brown basmati, but it has to say brown basmati or else it's white. There's an Indian rice, and if somebody's on the call and wants to share the name with me, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a little bit reddish in color. I believe that's also white. Rice is white unless it says, whole grain rice in it. So basmati jasmine, you can get a brown jasmine, but if it doesn't say, it's white.
And then rice bran oil, never heard of that. We just got that question. What about rice bran oil? BRAN.
Yeah, no, that sounds really good. I don't know where that falls on the spectrum though. That would be one maybe I can get back to you and post on that.
Okay.
Yeah, good question.
Good question.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's go to decrease personal triggers. So I'll tell you a story. I have a young man who is about 25, 26 years old, and he was attacking his caregivers. And this seemed to happen in the car, really bad. Like, I think she may have gotten a concussion one time. Nice kid, right? So it's not like he's trying to be mean.
Right.
And so Mom calls me the next day. Obviously, she's extremely upset. The gal quit, and I mean, you can't blame her. So I said, well, walk me through what happened. Well, he was in the car on the way back from the gym. So I said, well, what gym does he go to? So I pop it up on Google Maps, And I said, well, where's his house? So I popped that up on Google Maps. And it turns out, like I am thinking, there is a large body of water right on the way home from the gym. And I'm thinking that some sort of light struck the body of water and then struck his eyes. It was also 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm thinking big expanse of water, big bridge, no trees around. And like, so there's nothing to block the light. And did the light hit, strike the car window from the oncoming traffic and go right in his eyes? And that's what I think happened. Wow. Because imagine if you had a migraine headache and your brain is on fire 24/7 and somebody shines a spotlight in your eyes. You're going to freak out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if anybody on the call has migraines or headaches that are sensitive to light, that is a huge trigger for so many people. I deal a lot with headaches, so headaches are completely reversible and usually hormone based with some triggers like this. So guess what I had this kid do every time he's in the car?
What?
Wear sunglasses.
Wear sunglasses?
Yeah. So I have not gotten a call like that since. He hasn't beaten up anybody.
Wow. Yeah, you just really gotta put yourself in their shoes and try to look at it from their perspective. I once saw a TED Talk, a lady that she was like a molecular biologist, PhD, very smart lady. She had a stroke. And she explained the stroke, and she explained the recovery from the stroke. And I couldn't help but feel like this is the way an autistic individual probably perceives the world, with the light sensitivities and the sound sensitivities and maybe the delay in motion or gross motor skills. I don't have the name of that lady, but it was informative, and I felt like that was the best representation kind of for what they're dealing with.
It's interesting. So I'm wondering if there's some sort of oxidative stress that happens with the stroke. Obviously there's circulatory impairment. So that's really interesting. So it was nice to see, there's not a drug that I could give this kid that would have been better. Like sunglasses for him, I think are really going to solve, at least manage.
That's amazing.
So
such a good story.
Work. What's that?
I said, that's such a good story and such a simple fix. She got a concussion before, I think that's the case.
It was really serious either way. Yep.
Wow.
It was me being detective. So
Inspector Gadget. Yeah. No, that's awesome.
My logo, if you go on my website, it's addressing the cause, not the symptom. So we managed the cause, at least this time, manage the symptom, but we'll get to the cause, hopefully. The cause is going to be some of these other things. Bright lights, reflective lights. So that was an interesting one. Being overtired. I have some kids whose behavior is worse in the evening when they're cranky. Great homeopathic medicine. Sometimes I use as chamomile, which is not just for autism, but for like when you're overtired and you're just like, oh my God, I just can't do anything else. And kids if they stay up too late, they might just be cranky and you want to give them something and then they don't want it and nothing you do is good enough. And so that's generally the chamomile state. So being overtired can be a stress on the nervous system, and that's really what it is. The nerves are just irritated and stressed. So going to bed, making sure you're getting enough sleep, rest, even if it doesn't have to be sleep. Other triggers, I had another case of a kid who was, I don't remember if he was violent, but he was having a thing when mom told him that they needed to go to the store. And so I'm thinking, well, is it really that he doesn't want to go to the store? Or is it something else? And I knew what was going on. So I asked mom, well, what was he doing before you asked him to go to the store? Guess what his answer is? He's like 15. Any guesses?
No. What is it? What was he doing?
He was using an electronic device.
Yeah, I was gonna say playing video games. That was my first guess, but
yeah, he was
right?
I think it was a phone, but same thing. So the issue wasn't he didn't want to go to the store. It was he didn't want to break away from that addiction. And I've seen that a lot. A lot of times asking kids to turn off their electronic devices, I don't know why they have them in the first place, but it produces a huge stressor on their brain, more than just, they can't have their favorite toy or something else so I say, well, does this happen with anything else? They can't have their favorite food or something else. And sometimes the parents will say, yes, it does. And sometimes they'll say, no, it's really with this, it's with this the most often or the most severely. So I don't think that kids should have electronic devices, especially if they're autistic. One, we know that television, back when television was studied.
No, I'm with you on that, and
yeah, so television's been shown to lower vocabulary for children. That has been shown in studies. So I would imagine that the phone is another issue. But the problem that I see with the phone is worse than television because the child's in control. So if I have, like, one of my best friends, she lets her kid watch a show on the phone, but the phone is here, is like on the coffee table, and she's sitting on the couch. She's not playing with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of it is whenever you touch that phone, like I had another kid, it was actually the kid who was eating Lay's potato chips, not that that's relevant, but so we're having our initial consult. Mom tells me, oh, she really likes to listen to music. Oh, okay, that's nice. And, how does she listen to music? Oh, she listens on YouTube. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay. Well, she's not listening to music. She's tapping. She's listening to this one. Now she's listening to this one. And she's swiping this one. And every time they tap.
They spend like, what, 5 seconds on one video and then boom, to the next one, right?
Right. And so every time they tap, their brain is getting a hit of a chemical called dopamine. Dopamine is a feel-good chemical. So, of course, you and I, we get an email and, oh, my God, I'm so happy. Right? We're going to check it. We get that little hit of dopamine. And that's, people can get addicted to their phones even as adults. But for children, they're just developing. And they're just learning what gives them a good feeling. And so what should give them a good feeling is playing a sport, getting a field goal, getting a basket, doing a homework assignment, getting it right, doing something in the kitchen, saying, hey, you did a great job.
Another person, I agree with you. I think this is a topic that a lot of people don't want to talk about because we live in the age of information, and a lot of us millennial parents, use videos and phones as a babysitting mechanism because, there's not enough time in the day. But that's no excuse. But that's just the world we live in now, and it's become commonplace. But
it is commonplace.
I agree 100%. And I think that, it's a complete distraction from social interaction and language acquisition.
Another condition.
The child that hasn't developed language yet, and you park them in front of a screen and they just veg out for hours upon hours. That those hours are lost where there's no interaction with another person. There's no language between people, and it's just, you're just kind of zoned out for however long, and you really get no benefit from it. And kind of like you mentioned, all you really do get is reinforcement of that dopamine hit, which just continues that obsessive type addictive problem.
There's actually a condition called pseudo-autism, which is actually caused in toddlers by spending too much time on the screen. So just something to keep in mind. And so I don't mind if kids watch TV, but I want them to actually watch it and not have the remote. So if there's a show, great, put it on. Show it off, turn it off. We don't want it on the background all the time. I don't know how anybody's supposed to concentrate on anything. So just keep that in mind if that's an issue for your kids. I know a lot of parents are super good with electronics. It's not a thing. But every time they tap it, it's going to give them that hit. It's going to give them that drug. So just keep that in mind.
That's a great recommendation. Thank you.
So that is part one. So now I'm going to go ahead to part two. So part two so part one was removing things that can trigger inflammation. And part two is adding things that decrease inflammation. So if you think of your brain as a fire, I put water as number one because water is anti-inflammatory. I have adult patients who tell me they get a headache if one of their triggers is not drinking enough water. So keep that in mind, that water is super, super anti-inflammatory. And then we're going to go to some supplements that I use in my office, and some of you may already use them. The first one is CurePro syrup. CurePro is a turmeric product. So, a lot of my Indian patients eat turmeric all the time anyway, which is great. And turmeric, this is concentrated. So this is 500 times stronger than turmeric. It just came out, by the way, which is why it might look new to you guys. There are Tumeric Gummies that you can use, but they're full of sugar, and it's not from this brand. So I've been using this brand as capsules for adults with headaches and joint pain. It works great. So 500 times more concentrated than just turmeric, although turmeric in food is also awesome. So that's fine too. So I generally dose this a half teaspoon to a teaspoon, depending on the size of the child, probably 3 times a day. If someone was in a real state, I might do more than that. So that is CuraPro, which is turmeric. Then the next, yeah.
I do have a question. Turmeric, a lot of companies are combining the biopurine with the turmeric. What is your opinion on that? Because I have heard that can actually the black pepper extract can actually cause leaky gut. Do you advise that you use that as a bioavailability and increased absorption thing?
So when we look at how, like, turmeric's generally been eaten with food in like a curry sauce or something. So we think about, okay, well, we want to fat it to absorb it. And so we just think about, well, how has it been used for thousands of years? Okay. I haven't personally researched the ones that have the black pepper extract, only because I really like this brand, and this brand does not have it, and it works great. Okay. So I'm sure there are some that also work great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Just in terms of dosing for children, it's probably hard. It's probably going to be a hard one to find. But if your kid's one of those kids who will eat anything, put turmeric on eggs, put turmeric on vegetables, put turmeric in a smoothie, and just give turmeric. So yeah. So Guna Flam, Guna's an Italian.
It's like a super herb, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, I think Americans have a pretty bland diet, and so we could use more rosemary and thyme and oregano, and all these things are just so action packed, and you don't necessarily need mouthfuls of them like spinach or something. So Guna Flam is an anti-inflammatory liquid. So the Guna products that are an Italian company, they're called homeopathic. That's just the way they're regulated in the U.S. For this, it means that they're dilute. And so the product is going to say homeopathic, and it's going to come in a little bottle like this. And then you just drop it on a spoon. You can put it in some water. It's super easy to take. If you go to my website, drlachman.com, there's, I think the first video all the way at the bottom of all the reviews that I've ever gotten was a parent who gave her kid Guna, is just talking about how easy it is to dose. So Guna Flam, I started using with migraines and joint pain, and it was so effective. And I'm thinking, autism, inflammation, let's work on it. So that was the other product that I gave to the boy who had eaten McDonald's, that I gave to him next day, along with his olive oil and his homeopathic medicine. So love Guna Flam. Dosing for this, your kid obviously better than anybody. Sometimes we start with 1 drop. Some kids are at 15 drops. It's generally 1 drop per year of age, 2 to 3 times a day. So that's Guna Flam. I love Guna Flam. Guna anti-IL-1 right here. Anti-IL-1. This is, you don't have to know. It stands for interleukin. Interleukin-1 is an inflammatory hormone that our body makes. So our body, like if you get a cut or you sprain your ankle or something, it's supposed to be red and swollen, right? That's normal. But these kids have red and swollen 24/7. That's on this pro-inflammatory state. And so anti-IL-1 helps lower the inflammation. I mean, I can't say that in a study, but what I'll say is I find that clinically it lowers symptoms that are commonly associated with inflammation. So I really like Guna anti-IL-1 for inflammation, which I think is what's going on with behavior issues. Guna awareness. Oh my gosh, this was the first product I started with Guna maybe 7 or 8 years ago, because I wanted to find something that had oxytocin. And oxytocin at that time was prescription. I couldn't get it now. I have one brand of oxytocin that I can get for people over the counter, which is awesome. It's also prescription, like a nasal inhalation. So Guna awareness has oxytocin. It's diluted. It's diluted so much that there's only, it's like point something milligrams. 2 milliliters of diluted oxytocin for the whole bottle. So there's not even a milligram of oxytocin in here. What it is a reminder, oh, right, that's what I'm supposed to make. What is oxytocin? Oxytocin is a hormone that encourages positive social response. And we make this hormone, women make this hormone when they go through labor so that they actually like their babies after this potentially long and uncomfortable process. They make it when they nurse so that they love their baby and interact with them even more. We make it if somebody touches us, like that's, that feels nice. And we make oxytocin. So touching the kids, that would probably be a great thing to do. A foot massage.
Foot massage, yeah.
Touch is going to help them make oxytocin, but they're not making enough as they should a lot of times. So instead of just giving oxytocin, which I've seen give some mild benefit, I've just started in my practice, so I can't tell you how awesome it is, if it is at all yet. But the people that I've seen who are on it, it helps him with this a little bit. So, that's great. But I want to help the kid make his or her own oxytocin. And that's the benefit of dilution and of homeopathic medicine. So nice little story about awareness. I have a, I think he's 9-year-old boy I'm working with, great family. Seeing them tomorrow, actually. And this boy, he normally plays in his room by himself with his own stuff. And one day, brother, mom, and dad are sitting out on the patio, just chilling. This was last June. And next thing they know, he's down, kind of knocking at the window. And if he could talk, I'm sure he would have said something like, hey, I want to come out. Why is everybody outside? And so he came out and sat with them. And that was the first time that the whole family had just sat down together outside. And so cool because and the reason he did it was he was aware, and he not only was he aware, but he cared.
Yeah.
And so that was
that oxytocin?
That was stuff? I think so. That was with guna awareness.
So, oxytocin, all the research, so much research coming out right now, in the autism world on oxytocin. And it certainly seems like it's the silver bullet. I'm wary to use that word, but the silver bullet for social communication, that dynamic. And then I've gone on to see where it's involved, in the development of the social parts of the brain, and that it's even important for facial recognition, which I thought was very important for the autism world. I think that's an issue our kids have with facial recognition and stuff like that. So the science behind the oxytocin is really looking promising, really looking good. And I concur. I did a bunch of research several months back on oxytocin, and it was a physical touch, the foot massages. I did find that jasmine oil, is that right? Jasmine oil may actually increase oxytocin as well. So for you essential oil people out there that have diffusers, go buy you some and see what happens. Wow.
Yeah, that's interesting. And there's also some interesting thought on the use of Pitocin in delivery, which is a pharmaceutical oxytocin. Does that impact things? So I'm looking at Respin A, which is a topical homeopathic product, and how the science behind that is looking at, well, did Pitocin dosing in labor somehow affect the natural production of oxytocin? So that's an interesting thing. So I'm going to be looking.
It really is. You could for certainly see how that could downregulate, the system potentially at the wrong time.
That's the time when you're supposed to be bonding with your new mom or your mom that you actually get to see outside the womb. So a couple other things that we want to do. You guys are probably all familiar with the California Olive Oil Council and the olive oil. So this is Burroughs Family Farm. So I just happen to have this product at the moment. But you can go to COOC.com and get some olive oil. The benefit of the California certification is that we know it's not been adulterated, and it's also organic. So that's part of the Nemetschek protocol if you use that. But this is also an olive oil that I had that mom dose when her kid was having that real bad flare that I told you about. A couple other products. This is a product from my new line called Calm Plus, and I just started using it within the few weeks, and I've had some really good feedback on it. So if you haven't tried Calm Plus, you can message us. My office manager is standing by at the moment on our Facebook, Lachman and Associates. So people want to try this, they can. If you want to know what's in it, and no additives or anything. So it's really pure stuff. So I've seen some good benefit with behavior so far. So it's always nice to hear feedback on that. So this would be part of a tantrum tamer plan. I also have fish oil. So a lot of good brands. I happen to use Genestra's brand. I really like it. It tastes pleasant. It comes in strawberry, which is my favorite. You can also use Nordic Naturals and some other good brands, Carlson's. I like the one that has a higher DHA, like we were talking about, as well as the EFA. So the EPA. EPA is going to be more of the anti-inflammatory component, and then the DHA is going to be more of the brain supportive. So we need them both. And then I have a couple of patches. So these are some patches that honestly, I started using patches with one kid who would not tolerate anything oral. He even takes his homeopathics by nose, believe it or not, which actually works. So I started using patches. I have one, the detox and slimming patch, and then a stress relief patch. And I didn't know if they were going to work at all. But the detox and slimming and the stress relief patch do not cause you to lose weight. If they were, I'd be a millionaire. They don't. At least that wasn't our goal with these kids. It was more to, if someone has an obesity issue, they may also have a liver issue and need some detoxification support. So that's why it's on there. But these are all Chinese medical herbs like, licorice and green tea and jade and astragalus. So some really good adaptogenic herbs, and adaptogenic herbs really help the adrenal glands. And a lot of times we'll find that the adrenal glands get stressed with autistic kids, and they actually do well with adrenal gland supplements. So these are 2 patches that are in my kit. And I remember just last week I had somebody say, "Oh, we ran out of the patches," and we noticed that the kids just not as calm. So really like these patches, and you can see if they work for your family. Is that it? I feel like I'm missing one thing. Olive oil, detox slimming patch, stretch relief, calm powder. Yeah, so those are the components of the kit. And so I do have this tension tamer kit available on my on my special link. We'll post this link available for the next 7 days. So I don't know if that's on your, but my office manager is going to make that available to you, or you can just message me at Lachman and Associates, and we can get that over to you at a special price. So part of the course that I have goes through the diet. It goes through what causes some of these symptoms. So we talked about the brain being on fire, and we're going to talk a little bit about the organs that eliminate that fire from the body as well. So because we have this fire, but we have to get rid of it, just like when your trash can's full and you have to remove that. So did any questions come in on the kit itself before I go over some more stuff with the course?
Yeah, so we can do a little. Yeah, we can do a little Q&A for a minute. And hey, the patches are a great idea, by the way. I didn't get a chance to comment on that. I think the patches, specifically for autistic children that maybe have bad guts or can't tolerate taking capsules or syringes full of yummy stuff, patches can be a great option. I always want to test to see if the patches are working, but I've talked to many people that say that they do work, and they've actually seen results and gotten blood tests so to back that up. But yeah, let's do a little Q&A. I'll go through the questions we've got and haven't answered.
Sure. And then I'm going to pull up my course here that I'll share with you, so we can go through some of the questions may be answered in the course, so we can go through that as well.
Okay. First question is about ghee, and that was when we were talking about oils. I'm guessing they're asking about ghee and cooking with ghee.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
But it is dairy. So I have some people, I feel like I've only have one person who I know tested ghee and was sensitive to it. A lot of other people who are sensitive to dairy can do ghee. So you just have to test your family or yourself to see about that. It's definitely healthy, but not everybody can do the dairy. So you have to do that removal for 10 days, then give a lot of ghee on day 11 and wait 3 more days and see if anything changes for the negative. Yeah.
Be wary of the dairy factor.
Right. Awesome. So can you go ahead and
okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
This is I don't know if you'll be able to answer this 100%, but is a gluten-free oatmeal and custard okay for breakfast?
Well, it depends what's in the custard. So is there dairy in it? Is there sugar in it?
Right. We would need a brand or something. I hear custard and I think of ice cream.
Oh, interesting. That's totally true. So if you're having oatmeal, you want to really, hey, let me just share about oatmeal because I think it's great. If you're having oatmeal, use it as a base to put in a fresh fruit, a frozen fruit, some nuts, walnuts, chia seeds, flax seeds. You don't want to just have oatmeal because it's all carbs. There's a little bit of fiber. There's a teeny tiny bit of protein and no fat. So again, your blood sugar is going to spike, not as fast as white rice, but it's still going to go up and then go down. So try using a grain as a basis to add and make it really a meal. Okay. So, Preston, if it's okay, did you get that link?
Thank you for that.
Hang on, Preston, just before we
got say something about cease. You do use cease, right?
What's that? Yeah, so
you do practice a little homeopathic remedy as well.
We agreed that we would leave that to the person that you already interviewed, if that's correct. Yeah, so on that note, Preston, can you go ahead and share my screen? Can you see my screen there? It goes over course, so I just want to share this in case people have questions about the course. I do have an introduction to cease in the course, by the way. I don't think my screen is being shared. Preston, if you could just hop back on and share that for me, I can go through some of the things in it. There's about 5 hours of information that you can go over at your leisure. You'll gain an understanding of how the body works. When you know how the body works, then we know how it doesn't work. But if we don't realize what the normal function is, it's hard to know what the abnormal function is and how to reverse it. I think that's why the medical doctors in general are struggling with this, because they don't understand why, some of the reasons behind, maybe the underlying issues that are going on. So we're going to talk about that in the course. We do go over the diet plan, a general diet plan to know what your child can eat, as well as a gluten-free and dairy-free plan in detail to know what needs to be avoided. We're also going to go over an introduction to lab testing. So that's a common question that I have, and people say, well, what about this test and the organic acid test and the Great Plains test and stool test and all these other things? And those can be awesome things, but we want to see, is that really what your kid needs? And so what I generally look at is, does the kid have a test already, and can we utilize the information there? Has the information in that test been addressed and treated already, and maybe we can move on? When I first started, I could get very, very few tests, and so I've really become more of a clinical practitioner in terms of, I use Cure Pro syrup and the kid's tantrum decreases, so I don't need a test for it, but I do review them when they come across my desk, and sometimes recommend them, especially vitamin D. I always want to get that tested. And then there's a micronutrient test, vector cell test, depending if the kid can do blood draw and other things like that. So working with other doctors. So this is, sometimes people are saying, well, I can't see Dr. Lachman because I'm doing, chelation, and I just think, that it's kind of like saying, well, I can't eat broccoli because tonight I'm having cauliflower. And it's that's more how it works, is that we're all trying to add so many beneficial things for your child that, yes, you can do them together. Like, you wouldn't say, I'm going to stop my occupational therapy because I'm going to go see a MAPS doctor. Like, it doesn't matter, right? You want to do all of these things together. If we need to talk between ourselves, myself and any other provider, we can do that. But I really don't have to do that very often, because it's not an issue that there's really going to be interaction with, including with cease. Working with other doctors or protocols. So I had somebody say, well, we want to wait till we finish chelation before we start something else. And I'm thinking, well, if that kid's still eating gluten and dairy and doing chelation, it's just not the best thing. So we want to do as many things as we can as early on in the child's life as possible. How homeopathic medicines are diluted. So I will go over in my course, the Guna products. People, like, I had a mom who I had a mom. Okay, this is a cool story. I had a mom who was giving her son Guna awareness, and instead of just riding in the car and just not looking at anything, he actually started to look like, oh, there's this tree, there's a house, there's something going by, and he just wasn't aware of it before.
Right.
And so, but then she's reading because we know, or we think we know, that her kid had a methylfolate problem, really common. And she says, oh, well, this is folic acid. I stopped giving it to him. And then I got a message a few days later. He's not doing so well. Can I put him back on it? And so, like, yes, of course, right? And so, so when we talk about Guna products and homeopathy, I want to go through the dilution so that parents understand what's in it and why it's in it, because a lot of times actually giving a very small amount of something helps remove a larger amount of the same thing by telling your body, hey, you're supposed to tolerate, you're supposed to take care of that. You forgot how to do that. I'm just going to remind you.
Right.
Very gently.
Guna, a homeopathic type remedy company, is that what they're centered around?
In America, they're labeled as homeopathic. It's not technically homeopathy. Homeopathy is where we give an amount of something and see the symptoms that happen. That's called a prefung or a proving. And then the old doctors would sit around and poison each other and write down what happened. And then I have this in this book. These are all the things that happen from all these different toxins. And some of them we know from, occupational exposures, or like once I ate too many elderberries and I threw up, because they're so good. So now I know that elderberry could be a remedy for vomiting, right? So that's a proving, unintentional. So these have not been proven, and that's why they're not technically homeopathic medicine. But because of their dilution, that's how they're labeled. You don't have to know that, but I just don't want to go online and say, oh, this is a homeopathic medicine, because it's technically not. It's just how it's labeled and regulated by the FDA.
Sure.
My favorite Guna products, we talked a little bit about that. And then I'll also talk a little bit about the cease therapy in my online class, and if that's something you guys want to do. So is the link class on your
yes, I've got a link to your website and the course that should be in the live in the description section or the comment section. We did have a few more questions. Do you have any more time to answer a few more questions?
I could answer a few more. I just want to show you the different packages when you go onto the site so you know what you're seeing.
Yeah, check it out.
So I have a couple different options, and they are on sale for you guys for 1 week. So go ahead and make the most of that. The course I was talking about, obviously I can't see everybody in the world, and I want to share this information. I do have a lot of parents who are going to be starting this course before they come see me or during their first few visits, which is awesome. They will be a step ahead. So no matter who you're seeing, please, I think you'll like this course a lot. And then the second package here is with the kit. So that includes all the stuff that we're talking about. It's normally $649 because it includes all these products. So please check that out. Even if your kid does not have tantrums, remember, we still have to calm down that fire so that the nerves can connect with each other and they can make they can process new information. Because if you can't connect, if I'm trying to make a phone call and I'm just getting static here, I can't connect with my friend or whoever I'm trying to call, and I'm never going to make that connection. And that's what's going on with the brain cells. And so they need to have their inflammation lowered so that they can connect and they can learn. And then the ultimate package, if you do want to visit with me, that's included in there. Normally it's $1,200 if you were to get all these items and the class and the kit. So we made that special discount for you guys today. So if you are interested, you can go ahead and click here. If you're not sure, you have a question, just go ahead and click Let's Chat, and my office manager is standing by at the moment. She can answer any questions. So yeah, that's the kit. Here's a cute little box, and I will leave it at that. And we have questions. We have time for just a couple more questions. That's absolutely fine.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I would imagine that Tantrum Tamer kit is probably a good starting point for a lot of parents because, dealing with autism meltdowns, and that's kind of number one, especially if you're just starting biomed or fixing to start biomed. You want to get those tantrums and the behavior somewhat under control. So let's see what questions we have that we can answer. we had a question about fruit sugars, which me and you had talked about briefly. The question was, if my child eats an apple and a banana and 170 grams of blueberries and a carrot, one orange a day, is that too much sugar, you think, for the child?
Maybe. It depends how big the child is, but I would say you want to do 2 servings of fruit, and you could do some more, but maybe we can do more vegetables. If your kid likes bananas, maybe you take 1 banana and slice it up and freeze it. You can use a slice or 2 in a smoothie. Bananas are also a huge environmental problem unless they're organic. So they grow upside down, and then they're in this plastic bag, and then they just spray pesticides right in that plastic bag. It's horrible. So, side note, it was my prior job. I did environmental work. But yeah, that might be a little much. So you want to make sure. So can you give your kid, like the carrot, eats the carrots and then gets the fruit afterwards if they're still hungry? That would be a good way to do it too. But it's definitely better to give the whole fruit than the juice.
Excellent. Somebody's concerned about the olive oil being high in polyphenols. Is there a concern there, do you think?
Why would being high in polyphenols be a problem?
Not sure. Not sure. I think some kids have some polyphenol sensitivities that I've heard, but I don't know how you would verify that or figure that out exactly.
That's one of the benefits of it. So what I would do is do a test and see. Well, first of all, what's your kid eating instead? What oils are you using? And then you can go ahead and remove any olive oil for 1 week and feed a large amount of olive oil for 1 day and see what happens. And that's the best test. Sometimes when things are in a food, it's a lot easier to process, and like say you had a supplement with polyphenols maybe, just because it's in its more natural state. So keep that in mind as well.
All right, and our last question. How about kids sensitive to oxalates from turmeric? Is there a good alternative to turmeric?
I haven't found that any kid I've worked with has had a problem with turmeric.
Okay. Not in the form that you're given, at least.
I just haven't seen that. So if that's an issue, so try it, right? Give your kid the Cure Pro, give turmeric, and see, is there any sort of oxalate issue? Usually it's like an eye issue, pressing, or somewhere they're looking, and see, does that get worse? And give enough so that you would know, like 3 servings in a day. I don't think it's going to be a problem. Okay. So we got all the questions. That's awesome. Wow. Did not think that was going to happen.
That's it.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you coming on. Yeah, no, thank you so much.
I did have a question.
It was a pleasure, and we would love to have you on again.
Yeah, I had a question from a friend of mine to go over homeopathy. Like, oh my gosh, it's like a whole topic in itself. So maybe we'll do that another day. But really just wanted to get this information out to you guys. I hope everybody left this session with something that you can implement today or tomorrow for your family. So that's really the goal. Great, awesome. So we'll
Thank you, Dr. Julie. Once again, her her links to the website and her course are above. So you guys check her out. Thanks, Dr. Julie.
Thanks, Mr. Brooks. I'll talk to you in a bit. Bye.